Imagine this. You're standing at the altar dressed in a stunning white gown or a sharp tuxedo, surrounded by flowers, music, and the smiling faces of your closest friends and family. The only problem? The person standing across from you isn't the love of your life, in fact. You barely know them. This isn't a romantic fairy tale, it's a business deal. A fake wedding. A carefully crafted charade to solve a problem, fulfill a contract, or maybe just to prove a point. Sounds simple, right? But here's the thing about life. It has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. What happens when the lines between pretend and reality start to blur? When the person you're supposed to be fake marrying suddenly becomes the one person you can't stop thinking about? When destiny and maybe even love decides to step in and rewrite the script? That's the story we're diving into today, and trust me, it's one you won't want to miss. Now, before we go any further, let me ask you something. Have you ever made a deal with yourself or someone else, thinking you had everything under control, only to realize too late that life had other plans? If so, you're going to connect with this story on a deep emotional level. Because this isn't just about a fake wedding or a clever scheme, it's about the unpredictable, messy, and beautiful nature of love, destiny, and the choices we make. It's about what happens when we try to outsmart fate, only to discover that fate has been one step ahead of us all along. And by the end of this video, you're going to get answers to the questions that brought you here. You're going to find out how this fake wedding turned into something so real, so life-changing, that it left everyone involved questioning everything they thought they knew about love, trust, and the power of destiny. Let's set the stage. Picture a bustling city where ambition and opportunity collide. Our story revolves around two main characters, Emma, a fiercely independent and career-driven woman who's built her life around her goals, and Jake, a charming but equally guarded man who's learned the hard way that love comes with a price. Both of them are at a crossroads in their lives, and both of them think they've found the perfect solution to their problems, a fake marriage. For Emma, it's about securing a promotion at work and proving to her boss that she's stable and reliable. For Jake, it's about fulfilling the terms of his late grandfather's will, which requires him to be married in order to inherit the family estate. On paper, it's a win-win situation. They'll play the part of a happy couple for a few months, get what they need, and then go their separate ways. No feelings, no complications, no strings attached. But as we'll soon see, life doesn't always go according to plan. From the very beginning, there's an undeniable chemistry between Emma and Jake, a spark that neither of them can ignore. At first, they brush it off as part of the act, a necessary component of selling their story to the world. But as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, that spark begins to grow into something deeper, something neither of them anticipated. They find themselves sharing secrets, dreams, and fears they've never told anyone else. They start to notice the little things about each other, the way Emma's eyes light up when she talks about her favorite books, or the way Jake's laugh fills the room and makes everyone around him feel at ease. Before they know it, the line between what's real and what's pretend starts to blur, and they're left wondering, is this still just an act, or is it something more? But here's where things get complicated. Because while Emma and Jake are busy navigating their feelings for each other, there are outside forces at play, secrets, misunderstandings, and unexpected twists that threaten to tear them apart. There's Emma's overbearing boss who's always watching, always judging, and who seems to have her own agenda. There's Jake's estranged family, who are determined to see him fail, and who will stop at nothing to get their hands on the family estate. And then there's the past, both Emma's and Jake's, that comes back to haunt them in ways they never saw coming. As the stakes get higher and the pressure mounts, Emma and Jake are forced to confront the truth about themselves, their relationship, and the choices they've made. Will they stick to the original plan and walk away from each other? Or will they take a leap of faith and follow their hearts? Here's the thing, this story isn't just about Emma and Jake. It's about all of us. It's about the moments in life when we're faced with a choice to play it safe or to take a risk, to follow our heads or our hearts, to stick to the plan or to let go and see where life takes us. It's about the people who come into our lives when we least expect them and change everything. It's about the power of love to transform us, to challenge us, and to show us who we really are. And it's about the idea that sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never saw coming. So if you're ready to dive into a story that's equal parts heartwarming, heartbreaking, and utterly unforgettable, then you're in the right place. Because this isn't just a story about a fake wedding. It's a story about real love, real choices, and the real magic that happens when destiny decides to take the wheel. And by the time we reach the end of this video, you're going to have answers to the questions that have been swirling in your mind. You're going to see how Emma and Jake's journey unfolds, and you're going to be left with a cliffhanger that will have you counting down the minutes until the next part of the story. But before we get to that, let me ask you this. If you were in Emma or Jake's shoes, what would you do? Would you stick to the plan, or would you take a chance on love? Think about it as we dive deeper into this incredible story. And remember, this isn't just their journey, it's ours too. So, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Because trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. Emma had always been a planner. From the moment she graduated at the top of her class with a degree in business management, she had mapped out her life with precision. Her career was her priority, and she had no room for distractions, especially not the kind that came with messy emotions or romantic entanglements. She had seen what love could do to people, how it could derail even the most promising futures, and she was determined not to let that happen to her. So when her boss, the formidable and ever-watchful Victoria, hinted that Emma's single status might be holding her back from a promotion, Emma didn't hesitate. She would do whatever it took to prove she was the right person for the job, even if it meant staging a fake marriage. After all, it was just a business arrangement, a means to an end. What could possibly go wrong? Jake, on the other hand, had always been more of a free spirit. Growing up in the shadow of his wealthy but emotionally distant family, he had learned to navigate life with charm and wit, using humor to deflect the pain of his parents' bitter divorce and his grandfather's high expectations. When his grandfather passed away, leaving behind a will that required Jake to be married in order to inherit the family estate, Jake saw it as just another hurdle to overcome. He wasn't looking for love, he had been burned too many times to believe in it, but he was willing to play the part if it meant securing his future. And when a mutual friend introduced him to Emma, he knew she was the perfect candidate. She was smart, driven, and, most importantly, she had no interest in a real relationship. It was a match made in convenience, not heaven. The first few weeks of their arrangement went surprisingly smoothly. Emma moved into Jake's sprawling but slightly run-down estate, and they quickly fell into a routine. They attended social events together, posed for photos, and even practiced their story for anyone who might ask how they met. But as the days turned into weeks, something began to shift. It started with the little things, the way Jake would leave a cup of coffee on Emma's desk every morning, exactly the way she liked it, or the way Emma would laugh at Jake's terrible jokes, even when she didn't want to. They found themselves spending more time together, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Late-night conversations turned into shared secrets, and shared secrets turned into something deeper, something neither of them could quite put into words. But just as Emma and Jake were beginning to navigate their complicated feelings, the outside world began to intrude. Victoria, Emma's boss, was growing increasingly suspicious. She had always been a shrewd judge of character, and something about Emma's sudden marriage didn't sit right with her. She began to dig deeper, asking pointed questions and dropping subtle hints that she was watching. Meanwhile, Jake's family was causing problems of their own. His estranged mother and stepfather, who had always resented Jake's closeness with his grandfather, were determined to contest the will and claim the estate for themselves. They hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on Jake, hoping to prove that he wasn't fit to inherit. And then there was the mysterious figure who had been lurking around the estate, watching Emma and Jake from a distance. Who were they, and what did they want? As the pressure mounted, Emma and Jake found themselves drawn closer together, but also more vulnerable. They began to uncover secrets about each other's past secrets that could either bring them closer or tear them apart. Emma learned that Jake's carefree exterior hid a deep well of pain and regret, while Jake discovered that Emma's drive for success was fueled by a childhood marked by instability and loss. These revelations only deepened their connection, but they also raised new questions. Could they trust each other with their deepest fears and insecurities? Or would the weight of their pasts prove too much to bear? And then there was the question of the estate itself. Jake's grandfather had left behind more than just a will. He had left behind a series of cryptic clues, hidden throughout the property, that seemed to point to a larger mystery. What was the old man trying to tell them? Was it a test of Jake's worthiness, or was there something more at stake? As Emma and Jake began to piece together the clues, they found themselves drawn into a web of intrigue that went far beyond their fake marriage. They uncovered old letters, hidden rooms, and long-buried family secrets that hinted at a legacy far more complex than either of them had imagined. But just as they were beginning to make sense of it all, a new threat emerged. The private investigator hired by Jake's family had uncovered something that could destroy everything Emma and Jake had built. A secret from Emma's past, one she had worked hard to bury, was about to come to light. And as the walls began to close in, Emma and Jake were forced to confront the truth. Their fake marriage was no longer just a game. It was a lifeline, the one thing holding them together as the world around them threatened to fall apart. So, as we leave Emma and Jake at this critical juncture, the question remains: what will they do next? Will they continue to play their roles, or will they finally admit that what they have is real? Will they uncover the truth behind Jake's grandfather's clues, or will the secrets of the past prove too dangerous to face? And most importantly, will they be able to trust each other when it matters most? The answers are coming, but for now, the tension is building, and the stakes have never been higher. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The tension in the air was palpable as Emma and Jake sat in the dimly lit study of the estate, surrounded by the scattered remnants of Jake's grandfather's clues. The old man's cryptic notes had led them to a hidden compartment in the library, where they discovered a stack of yellowed letters and a faded photograph of a woman neither of them recognized. The woman in the photo bore a striking resemblance to Jake, with the same piercing eyes and confident smile. But it was the date on the back of the photograph that sent a chill down Emma's spine. It was taken decades ago, long before Jake was born. Who was this woman, and what was her connection to the estate? As they began to read the letters, a story unfolded, one of forbidden love, betrayal, and a secret that had been buried for generations. Jake's grandfather had been involved with this woman, but their relationship had been kept hidden, shrouded in mystery. The letters hinted at a child who had been sent away to protect the family's reputation. Could this child be connected to Jake? Was there more to his family history than he had ever been told? As Emma and Jake grappled with this revelation, the private investigator hired by Jake's family was closing in. He had uncovered a piece of Emma's past that she had hoped would never see the light of day, a brief but tumultuous relationship with a man who had ties to organized crime. It was a chapter of her life she had worked hard to leave behind, but now it was threatening to resurface. The investigator had photos, documents, and enough evidence to paint Emma in a damning light. If this information got out, it wouldn't just jeopardize her career. It could destroy her reputation and everything she had worked for. And Jake's family wouldn't hesitate to use it against them, especially if it meant gaining control of the estate. Emma knew she had to tell Jake the truth, but the fear of losing him, of seeing the trust in his eyes turn to doubt, kept her silent. How could she explain something she barely understood herself? Meanwhile, Victoria's suspicions were reaching a boiling point. She had always been a master manipulator, and she wasn't about to let Emma's sudden marriage slide without digging deeper. She began to plant seeds of doubt among Emma's colleagues, subtly suggesting that Emma's rapid rise through the ranks might not be entirely legitimate. She even went so far as to hire her own investigator, determined to uncover the truth about Emma and Jake's relationship. Victoria's motives were unclear. Was she genuinely concerned about the company's reputation, or was there something more personal driving her actions? Whatever the reason, her meddling was adding another layer of pressure to an already volatile situation. And then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more complicated, an unexpected twist threw everything into chaos. The mysterious figure who had been lurking around the estate finally revealed themselves. It was the woman from the photograph. She introduced herself as Clara, and she had a story to tell. Clara claimed to be Jake's aunt, the sister of his father who had been sent away as a young woman to protect the family's reputation. She had spent her life in the shadows, watching from a distance as the family she once knew crumbled under the weight of its own secrets. But now, with Jake's grandfather gone, she had returned to claim what she believed was rightfully hers, a share of the estate. Her arrival was like a bombshell, shaking the fragile foundation of Emma and Jake's already precarious situation. Claire was charming and persuasive, but there was a hardness in her eyes that made it clear she wasn't going to back down without a fight. As Emma and Jake tried to process Claire's sudden appearance, they were forced to confront the possibility that their fake marriage might not be enough to protect them. The stakes were higher than ever, and the lines between ally and enemy were becoming increasingly blurred. Claire's presence brought with it a new wave of questions. What did she really want? Was she here to help Jake, or did she have her own agenda? And how much did she know about Emma's past? The tension between them was electric, and it was clear that Claire wasn't going to make things easy. But perhaps the most shocking twist of all came when Emma received an anonymous message late one night. It was a single sentence typed in bold letters. "You're not the only one with secrets." The message was accompanied by a photo of Jake with another woman, taken just weeks before he and Emma had entered into their arrangement. The woman in the photo was beautiful, with a smile that seemed to light up the room. Who was she, and what was her connection to Jake? Emma's mind raced with possibilities, each one more unsettling than the last. Had Jake been lying to her this whole time? Was their connection, their growing feelings for each other, just another part of the act? Or was there something more going on, something even Jake didn't fully understand? As the pieces of the puzzle began to come together, Emma and Jake found themselves standing on the edge of a precipice. The secrets of the past were colliding with the realities of the present, and the future they had been building together was hanging in the balance. The estate, the inheritance, the fake marriage, it all paled in comparison to the emotional stakes they now faced. Could they trust each other enough to weather the storm, or would the weight of their secrets tear them apart? The answers were closer than ever, but so were the dangers. And as the clock ticked down, one thing became clear. The deal they had made was no longer simple, and destiny had no intention of playing by the rules. The revelation of the photo of Jake with another woman sent Emma spiraling into a whirlwind of doubt and fear. She had let herself believe in the connection they were building, in the possibility that their fake marriage could turn into something real. But now, faced with the image of Jake smiling at another woman, she couldn't help but question everything. Was she just a pawn in a larger game? Had Jake been playing her all along? The weight of her own secrets, combined with this new uncertainty, threatened to crush her. But before she could confront Jake, Claire intervened. The enigmatic woman who had appeared out of nowhere seemed to sense Emma's turmoil and pulled her aside one evening. With a mix of sympathy and sharp insight, Claire revealed a truth that left Emma reeling. The woman in the photo wasn't Jake's lover. She was his sister, a half-sibling Jake had never known existed. Their father, it seemed, had been far less faithful than anyone had realized, and Jake's world was about to be turned upside down once again. Jake, meanwhile, was grappling with his own demons. When Emma finally confronted him about the photo, he was stunned. He had no idea the photo even existed, let alone that it had been sent to Emma. But as Clara stepped in to explain the truth, Jake's shock turned to anger not at Emma, but at the web of lies and secrets that had defined his family for generations. He had always known his father was distant, but this new revelation cut deeper than he could have imagined. The woman in the photo, his half-sister, had reached out to him years ago, but his father had intercepted the letter and buried the truth. Now, with Clara's help, Jake was determined to find her and finally piece together the fractured history of his family. But as he and Emma began to unravel the threads of the past, they realized that Claire's motives weren't entirely selfless. She had her own reasons for wanting the estate, reasons that went beyond money or family loyalty. The deeper they dug, the clearer it became that Claire was hiding something that could change everything. The tension reached its peak on the night of the estate's annual gala, a lavish event that Jake's grandfather had hosted for decades.